welcome back to the workshop. Some time ago I bought this little printer. It's a Canon DieSub. Prints photos a little better and longer lasting than the average dot matrix printer. But having had it for some years, all of a sudden Canon decided they weren't going to support the drivers anymore, and I ended up having to put it on the shelf. Although it is useful to print directly from my SLR, it wouldn't connect with Windows. And Canon then brought out a series of printers that do exactly the same thing with new drivers that do work, but don't work with this. A little frustrating. So recently I decided to set up a virtual machine in my PC and see if I could load old drivers into an old version of Windows that might support this. And in the process of downloading the files, me being the inquisitive type, I thought, well, let's try loading some old drivers into Windows 11 and see what happens. That I did. I found that the Windows Vista 64-bit driver actually loads in Windows 11 and detects the printer. And having pulled out the old software that came with this thing, luckily I still had the disk, I was able to load up some family photos, select a print, and lo and behold, actually print with it. And I don't know why something has changed that allows me to do that, but I definitely couldn't do it in the past. Anyway, so this isn't technically a fix video because I fixed it in software, but look at the colour of this thing. It's horrible. Even part of the inside has gone yellow. And the black Perspex paper carrier has gone yellow. So it's time to get out the Retrobriting box, see if we can sort this out. Now I can't remember which version of Windows I last had this working in. It could have been Windows 7. Certainly wasn't working in 10. Anyway, I'm hoping that I can undo these 4 corner screws and get the top case off. If not, well, let's see. I don't want to risk staining the plastic that's good. There we go. Right, so the bit I need to work on is this. There is a sticker on here which I don't really want to take off, so I'm going to leave that alone and hope the peroxide doesn't damage that. And the other pieces of plastic here don't look removable either, so it's going to be a case of try it and see and hope it comes out right. So I really don't want to risk taking this flap off. I think I might just break one of the retaining pegs if I try, so that's staying as is. I'll have to paint some of this peroxide on the inside as well as the outside. Let's give it a go. More of this stuff, I've mentioned this before. It's 12% or 40 vol peroxide, as recommended in the Amazon comments for Retrobriting. A fairly liberal application. But for now, I'm going to close the flap and wrap it up. Well, I'm just going to rinse my hands first. Okay, so this will now go in the box under very bright lights. Normally it takes about 4 hours. I will check all the way through and see how it's doing. I'll just go in there. Alright. Okay, we will leave that and come back later on. Well, this is very strange. So I came back to this a number of times, massaged the stuff around as you do, and yet, despite being in here for many hours, you can see there's still a huge contrast between that flap and the sides. So I'm going to get these washed off and have a close look. So yeah, this is strange. It is better than it was, slightly less yellow. Here doesn't look any better, although that has been shut most of the time. And I had the lights on for hours. Once again, that tinting that's in this section hasn't cleared up. It hasn't really worked at all. I have to say, I'm a little disappointed. I've saved you the pain of having to watch my efforts to get this to change colour. I've been at it for 3 days, and there's probably been a total of over 30 hours of time under the lights, and yet, well, as you can see, it's better. I mean, it is better than it was, but it hasn't gone back to as new. So I'm a little disappointed. That's not the only thing I'm disappointed with, though. Let me show you something else. And one of the earliest things I did with Retrobrite was to get this piece, which is removable, back to its original colour. Now the front part here I didn't do because, well, the scope wouldn't fit in the box, so I left that alone. But look what's happened. These things have returned, or this piece has returned to the same colour as this yellow piece. So it seems to me that, at least Retrobrite for me, is a failure, because what's the point in bothering if it goes back to that colour again after couple of years. There's the original colour. There's the nasty yellow. I may try a second time just to prove a point, but no, generally disappointed. I don't know what will happen here, whether this slight improvement will revert itself, but yeah, I'm going to call this one a fail. Decided to have another go at the lid on the scope, and that has now been in for a good 12 hours. So let's get this out, turn off these lights before I go blind, and see what we've got. As you can see, both sides are now the same colour. And here we go again. Well, who knows how long it'll last, but based on what happened before, I am not optimistic. There's the difference in shade between the case of the scope and the piece I've just replaced, retrobrited. Well, look, I know I said I wouldn't, but I thought I might as well go the whole hog and have a go at cleaning this up. So let's give it a wipe down and I'll show you the results. Okay, so on camera it looks slightly yellow, particularly on the right hand side, but in person it's actually fine. The front panel is now the same colour as the top cover, and it looks a lot neater. However, if it's all going to fade back to yellow again, I don't think it's worth the effort. So I'll keep my eye on both the scope and the printer, and I'll let you know how it goes. But if it does all go back to yellow, I suspect I won't be doing much retrobriting in the future. Well, that's it for now. Please join me in the workshop for the next video, which will be along fairly soon.